Supposed to be.
No, it looks like you're giving a blowjob. Big microphone.
But
remember, this will be audio.
Good. So this is actually
every time you touch that fucking thing, it makes a noise.
Everybody be quiet.
Ugh. You know, there's people with misophonia or phonia.
Yeah, I'm married to one.
Who are not going to enjoy you stroking your giant microphone penis.
Microphone phallus. Oh, this sounds
See,
good.
now you're like way loud. I think
Yes,
you might be too loud.
But I'll stand back like here. Microphone phallus.
All right. And okay, yeah.
How's that? Phallus.
Well, that's
follicular.
What you usually say. So,
follicular. I'm making up words. Testicles.
You had to slip your balls in. You had to. Every week. Every week, your balls start the show.
What are we starting with? Wait, do we have a notes or something?
You should put that phone down.
Do we have any notes? What?
You're creating visual comedy, and most people are listening to this through headphones or what have you. Or, well, at least one or two people, because where are all the listeners? You know, people were clamoring for us to come back, and now we've come back on a semi-regular schedule, and all of a sudden nobody listens to us anymore. It's ridiculous.
Well, you know what my theory is? They're just catching up, you know. They're just playing catch up.
Or you know what? Yep. Maybe the holidays, maybe a lot of people just decided to go out and said, fuck it, and just went out and got shit-faced. And we don't need recovery podcasts anymore. Yeah. I expect, much like gymnasiums, is that even a word anymore?
Gymnasiums?
In January, we're going to see a huge spike in listeners of people looking around. We should probably put out a show in January saying,
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We are your New Year's resolution podcast.
Yeah, well, I think probably, I think it's just, we put out like 4 shows in a week, you know.
Yeah, why do we do that?
I don't know why. I think for a while it was dying on the vine, and, we were getting so busy we couldn't do it. And, and then one day we just got a bug in us, and then we did it, and then we're like, we could do it. Yeah. We made it work. And then, I don't know. I think we just had a lot to say, and
I think we're just fucking manic is the problem. I mean,
definitely manic.
We're just going like it's either feast or famine around here, So those of you that may have detected some difference in an audio quality or a different approach that we're having today, there is a reason for that. We are recording this over Zencastr, which we have not done in a while, which usually we have reserved exclusively for guests that come onto RMA, but we've had to do it this week because there is COVID in the land. Specifically, it is in my house. More specifically, it is sleeping upstairs in the bedroom directly above me.
Yeah.
My son caught a bit of the bug, the COVID bug, and at risk of infecting the Nat's family, we decided to do this remotely instead of in your well-appointed, holiday decorated living room.
Which reminds me of something I usually like to say right about now. And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about 2 middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Nat X.
I'm Mike R.
And boy, do we have a show for you. Today on RMA, it's Mike and Nat in the morning. Welcome to another day with Mike and Nat here, drinking their coffee, trying to wake up, and RMA mornings, everyone. Welcome.
RMA
morning. So, the COVID is going around. Ben's got it. Noah got sick, but it didn't appear to have, he was testing negative for COVID. He tested negative for strep. He tested negative. And I always said he was a negative kid, he always says no. But now it's actually working for us. But he missed 4 days of school. But I'm sorry to hear that Ben's got the COVID.
Yeah.
He was really having a rough time with it.
Well, it was worse a few days ago. I think we're going to try and push him back to school to infect the rest of his classmates tomorrow.
That's nice,
yeah. I mean, I took him to the doctor yesterday, and you were there, I guess, on Saturday, and I don't know what that experience was like for you, but I walked in there and I'm like, well, if I didn't have COVID before, I'm definitely going to get it now. There was 25 kids sitting in the waiting room. I'd never seen it that crowded.
Yeah.
And they're all coughing all over everything, and I have like an N95 on, and I'm holding it onto my face with my hands, so like nothing bleeds through.
Yeah, I lucked out when I took Noah there. I think it was Thursday. We had a little bit of an incident removing him from school. I sort of didn't follow protocol exactly correctly.
What'd you do? You walked down the hallway and grabbed him out of class?
Kind of. I mean, I did sign him out and everything, but that's another story. But yeah, we went to the doctor and we lucked out. There was only a couple of kids there, but to me, it felt like the calm before the storm. Because I've been hearing my mother-in-law's got COVID. A couple of the people I work with, their kids are all sick. So it's definitely going around. I don't know. It's scary.
Ben and Noah as well, I guess, had to miss the holiday concert. Noah
plays that was the big one.
The saxophone, and that was kind of sucky. So I open up his grade thing this morning and look at it, and his fucking teacher gives him a 0 on the performance part for class. And I'm like, the kid's fucking sick, So my wife
told them that they could do it.
Well, my wife sent an email saying, do you need medical documentation? Because we have it, and she gets a bounce back. He's sick. He's out today. He's got COVID or something.
With the teacher.
Yeah. So I guess what happened is like a lot of kids probably were feeling a little off. Showed up for the performance, blew all the COVID germs out through the end of their horns all over this guy, and now he's out. It's so crazy. Like everyone's just. Come to the conclusion that it's over, right? There's no COVID. Nobody's getting sick. Nothing to see here, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
and then, everybody gets whacked, And it's crazy because the doctor in our town who sees both of our kids, I follow him on Instagram, and he's in fucking Appalachia, like doing his photojournalism shit. Meanwhile, his office is completely overwhelmed. There's kids like poking out hanging out on the outside. There's snot running all over the place, and there's one nurse practitioner who doesn't know her ass from her elbow, is running around like trying to diagnose all these people. It's
I think we got her as well. Yeah, she was
gray hair lady who's not very pleasant.
It was gray hair. It was like a salt and pepper. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, she's like, "Oh, he's fine." Like, can we take some tests? Maybe it's just pustules on the tonsils. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I come in there and I go into the room and they're like, "He has COVID." And I'm like, "Yeah, I told them at the desk. Like, that's why I was coming in." And they were kind of like, "It's like, look, get your house. If I have my house in order." And I'm just some, shitty ex-alcoholic. Like, you guys should get your house in order. Just figure out what's going on over there.
Speaking of houses in order, do you think how are our levels? I'm just looking at
I think we're fine.
We're good. Okay, sorry, folks.
I mean, your level is high. Can you see?
So your level is quite high as well. That's I'm making sure we're both just as high. Are we smoking the same shit? Is what I want to know.
I am just as high.
Okay,
although,
good.
From my perspective, you look much higher than me.
Yeah, same here. All right, so we're both envious of each other's size.
This is all going to be blown out. Like the levels are going to be blown out. I bet. I really don't like these. I
feel like we're flying blind.
Zencaster's always given me.
But we always get a good sound, which reminds me of this other thing I like to say sometimes. Welcome to all the Monksters listening stateside, around the world, down the street, across the table, and right next door. Welcome all. Settle in, buckle up, and get ready for excitement, comedy, tragedy, intrigue, mystery, and so much more. Where can they find us? Mike, where are they listening to us now, Mike? Where does anybody listen to us?
If they're listening to us, they know where to find us. So I don't even want to tell you. I can't send you to the website because some fucking virus.
It's really fucked up, right?
Virus, like our kids, our fucking website has also been attacked by a virus. And
I'm really annoyed.
And our crack IT team has been unreachable.
Well, here's what happened. Well, this is why I think I'm not getting a proper response. And I forgot that my buddy Utpal in Calcutta, who's been helping me with things for years and years, he did the original website. And then we didn't like it, right? Yeah. And I hired another gentleman, probably south of Calcutta, to build us the new one. And it was great. And then something went horribly wrong with the website recently. And I reached out to the wrong guy to say, what's wrong with this website?
No.
So I've been harassing Utpal about a website he didn't really build,
Well, at least he
feel
should
terrible.
respond and say, "I'm sorry, sir."
He wrote back like, "I'll look at it." A few days ago, but who knows if it's been looked at?
Listen, with all due respect to your buddy Utpal, like that first website was definitely Web 1.0. It was like Angel Fire from back in 1995.
Yeah, but when I met Utpal back in 2007, it was cutting edge.
Right.
So it's hard for me to tell the difference. So today we've got an interesting show. What are we going to do today?
No, we don't. It's not fucking interesting. We just threw it together in 10 minutes.
Guys, I've got some recovery in the news. Oh my God, it just jumped on my phone. This is amazing. Okay. Recovery in the breaking news. Breaking report. WWE sends Matt Riddle to rehab after second failed drug test.
Oh, dear.
Maybe they should have thought about it.
All on drugs all the time?
According to a report, Matt Riddle is currently in rehab following a second failed drug test. Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net reported.
Bodyslam.net.
Why can't I have a business card that says like editor for Bodyslam.net?
What kind of drugs was Mike Riddle doing?
Matt Riddle, who is a huge star, and he's a wrestler, probably pot. They have a T-shirt that they sell that says 420 bro, which is his whole shtick, is that he smokes pot. He's like a dude, like a bro.
Then they wouldn't send him to rehab for weed if that's his character in wrestling.
Which would make no sense. Okay, so let's see what the guy from Body Slam is reporting here. Riddle has written off last week's Raw. He was written off, meaning they told him he couldn't be on it, due to failing his second drug test. When a proposed match against Seth Rollins for SummerSlam was... it doesn't say... yeah, this is rough.
Well, kidding aside, those guys have to take a lot of painkillers because they do get injured, Right.
So you wonder when they say drug tests, like, is it just he's smoking too much pot again? Because there's some funny interviews with him where he's just like, yeah, I don't know, man. And he's all high. But, I'd like to... if anybody knows any more about this, I'm extremely interested to hear what's up with Matt Riddle.
Yeah, do drop us a note if you
drop us a note. He's one of Max's favorite wrestlers too.
Oh, you better not tell him that his hero is in rehab.
Yeah, well, I had to explain what
I don't know.
He was wearing a 420 bro shirt on wrestling the other night, and I'm trying to explain it, and Max is like he just knows it's a funny number because of his brother,
Yeah, but 69 is a funny number.
Yeah, 69 is hilarious. 420.
Yes. 420.
69, 420. So that is recovery in the WWE news.
Okay. Before we move on, we need to talk about alcohol recovery in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Because talking about sobriety and proving it to your employer can be difficult. And our friends at SoberLink want to help.
Mm-hmm. Matt Riddle might need that.
Yeah. If you need a reliable way to present documented proof of sobriety to your wrestling organization or a loved one, to Vince McMahon, SoberLink can help. SoberLink is a high-tech portable breathalyzer system that uses facial recognition technology to verify identity. So Matt Riddle can stick his ugly mug in there and we'll know it's him. It has unique sensors to ensure that no other air sources are being used. It sends results directly to your specified contacts. So there's no questioning whether or not you took the test or whether you made the Iron Sheik take the test and whether or not you altered the reporting. See how dated I am? That's when I was watching wrestling, when the Iron Sheik was still wrestling. This is why SoberLink...
You suck.
This is why SoberLink's remote alcohol monitoring system is considered the gold standard. Being in recovery away from alcohol. That's good. I just add words to copy. Being in recovery from alcohol does not define the future of your career. Let SoberLink help. Learn more about SoberLink and request an exclusive $50 off promo code by visiting www.soberlink.com/middle-ages.
Middle-ages.
I'm sure the sponsors are not thrilled when you get up and walk away when I'm reading the ad copy. Is there some reason that you needed to go? Did you go take a shit or something?
I needed more coffee.
Okay.
Can't you see this? Look at this face.
So this should not be construed as any commentary you may have about SoberLink.
No.
Now you should say something nice about SoberLink for a couple
SoberLink. Well, it's really interesting because I said a friend of ours, a friend of the show's, who shall remain nameless, who I've recently gotten back in touch with, requested our special link to get SoberLink. I think we actually, if you use the our special link to SoberLink, I'm saying link a lot now. There's like a 10% off coupon that I think we offer. So if you go through Recovery in the Middle Ages,
a $50 off promo code. But
that sounds good.
You can give them 10% off too. You should probably email SoberLink and see if that's also allowed.
It's some version of 10%. In any case, so this is it's supposedly, from everything I've heard about SoberLink makes me, and the fact that I would fear having this if I were being tested. I mean, it's very, very accurate. You can't even get your cat to breathe onto it. It knows when it's you, and it's a great way to keep your loved ones, make them feeling okay that you're doing what you're supposed to.
How do they tell human from animal breathing? Like, is there a setting for like fishy breath from the cat food? Or like, what if you are a human that eats cat food? Can they?
Then you are screwed. You don't eat cat food for 3 hours before you use this thing.
A lot of other sponsors will actually give you a device so you could try it out. But we did not get one from SoberLink. So
no,
but I would if they were to give us one, I would use it. Not only that, I would give them an expanded commercial because we could blow into it on air and check each other's sobriety. So
we
something to think about in the new year. SoberLink.
Yeah, SoberLink. We should do this. Yeah, the morning after New Year's Eve, we should both have to take a SoberLink. Thingy and prove that we didn't get wasted.
So aside, okay, well, I'll just close it. I kind of, you know what I like doing it this way? Like,
which way?
I can, the way we're doing it over this Zencaster, because I can have websites up and I can look at them and I can close them and I can, it's easier than just staring at your little phone.
Let's see if, the sound is good and we're comfortable. Maybe we could do it like this all the time. I like this mic. I got this really cool. It's the same mic that Grant B has. Blue. And I think Aaron has it too.
I have one of those. Jack's using it for video games.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds really good.
Sometimes those can be a little tinny, a little hot because it's a condenser, but
I set it to dynamic. Did you know you could set the mic pattern?
Yes, I know.
So I set it to dynamic.
Was one of the choices, though.
Yep, it's the best choice.
Right.
It's my favorite choice.
Right. So in the last week since we did the last show,
yes.
What has happened besides? I mean, in my house, it's just been COVID.
Well, it's been COVID. But one amazing thing that has happened to our show in the last week, something that we never thought would happen again.
Losing listeners at a rapid
rate. We got a review. Great reviews will be read on the air.
Yes.
And guys, we have so much great stuff going on, especially on the Patreon, because there's a discussion group on patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages. And we get reviews occasionally. And when we do, we read them on the air. So we got one recently, and here it is. Right?
Yeah, you have it?
I do.
Okay, so you should read it.
So this one says, new listeners, the name 5 stars. From Greg B. Love this podcast. I just started on my road to recovery in October. The tips to stay sober at Thanksgiving episode was a big help.
Just the tips.
Please don't pull the plug on this podcast. Most other recovery podcasts I have found are dull, dry, and frankly make me want to drink. You guys are easy enough to listen to that it's almost like a comedy podcast. Well, that's what we're going for. You didn't quite make it a comedy podcast. Almost. So thank you so much, Greg. Keep listening. I'm glad that you enjoyed the tips and stuff like that. I think we should do more practical guide type stuff. People get something out of that. And I don't know. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. If you don't want to drink after an hour of listening to the two of us, I think you're in a good shape. Your recovery is progressing nicely.
Yes. So we always love to hear from new monksters. Guys, write us. Join us on the Facebook group. It's Recovery in the Middle Ages on Facebook. There's a private group. We have discussions, post funny memes, and support each other's recovery. So come and join us.
So along those lines, I don't know if you noticed yesterday, I posted a couple of things on the main Facebook page where we have like many followers. All those followers
like almost
that
8,000 people
don't listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
that I'm trolling for stories, and I'm getting a little desperate because we're planning the Christmas show for next week, and
yes,
I've asked for encouraging voicemails, so for people to encourage those who are earlier on in this journey than themselves. Maybe they could leave a bit of wisdom or advice. And I also, what else did I ask for? Well, I also asked for cheap celebrity booze stories. Like if you ever met a celebrity while you were drunk or while they were drunk, please share that with us. And what else?
Like that.
One other. What do you want for Christmas? What would you buy the alcoholic or the addict in your life for Christmas? And I solicited both funny responses and serious responses. And do you know what?
What?
I got no responses.
None yet. Yeah, I'm trying to engage the Monksters and be like, guys, are you still out there? And yes, in fact, they are. They're just,
some of them
it's cool because we're getting a lot of new listeners that are just catching up. Because if you think about it, people will find the show and they'll just start from the beginning, and they're taking that whole journey that we took, getting to know each other. The sports store I used to own, the crashing down of the sports store, the changing of careers, everything that is going on in our lives. COVID gets documented. So really, we've got a little documentary here.
Yeah.
So go back to number 1. This is our 98th episode, and we are, we might actually hit 100 in the new year.
What are we going to do for the 100th episode? We're going to have a party?
We should get all of our old Monksters on.
Let's just get drunk.
And get wasted. Just kidding.
Yeah.
We wanted Stutz reactions from last week. I was kind of looking for...
right. You asked for the Stutz reactions.
So I said on the Facebook page, Monksters Speak, for tomorrow's show, we are looking for your reactions and reviews of Stutz. Please post your wisdom here. Love, Nadex. I got a couple. So Eric B says, I need to watch it again, but I suspect it will become another tool in the toolbox for me. Much like you dudes are. We're in your toolbox. Last few episodes have been spot on. Thank you, someone who likes the new format. Keep rocking it, fellas. Thank you. And then Carrie C says, I loved your show about Stutz. I watched the doc and registered and felt like you guys broke it down perfectly.
Oh, great. Nothing like tooting our own horn.
And then I think you wrote, you could also just tell us a crazy Christmas story.
Yes. I'm always going for the cheap laugh, the angle.
It was a good one. In any case, so thank you guys for reaching out on there and helping us out. We always love to know what you guys think. We watch these documentaries, read these books, but really, I haven't heard much about the Matthew Perry. I think everyone's sort of disgusted by it. Everyone was so excited to discuss this Matthew Perry book until we all read it. And then it's been this kind of funny, maybe we don't have to talk about this.
Yeah. The thing didn't get a lot of traction on the Discord, the book club. But I don't know if anybody's actually planning on having that longer conversation, that was planned.
Yeah, I think maybe we ought to call it like we see it and try the next book that we're going to talk about, which is going to be your friend Mackenzie Phillips.
Oh, really? We're doing that one?
I think we ought to, because we've been talking about it. And
I just listened to it.
Yeah, it'd be a good time to do the show. Also, so today we were going to do some news, I think.
We're going to do that, but also I want to encourage you guys, if you want to participate in our Christmas show, give us a call at our Google Voice number at 516-888-6297. That's our hotline, and you can leave us a message. Like 3 minutes long would be ideal, because you'll get cut off if it's any longer. And we'll play it on the show. Don't identify yourself by name if you don't want to be identified by name. Just, you can leave it anonymously. It's fine. And it would be a big help to us because we're very busy people. And we want to do a show next week for Christmas. And it would be nice to have some participation from. Yeah,
we'd love to have you guys get your voices, Monksters be heard. And it's an opportunity to get a nice message out to all of the listeners, anybody who's struggling this, holiday season, just to hear your voice out there. You're struggling too, but you're getting through, and, it always helps to hear those things. I know it helped me when I was really struggling, and I would listen to, books or podcasts. So hang in there.
Yeah, it's nothing like Christmas time. I used to do a lot of drugs around Christmas and other times as well. But Christmas was always a good time to do drugs because I remember one time I was living up in Buffalo, which I did for like 6 months. And I pulled a geographic. I was trying to get out of the Bronx where, crack was ubiquitous. It was there all the time, and I was participating in it all the time. And I was like, you know what? Time to change my life. I'm going to move to Buffalo, New York, which is, an up-and-coming city in the Rust Belt.
It's a hell of a freaking geographic.
I had reasons, but so it was actually a few months before I left the Bronx, I had kind of stopped doing crack. And so when I got up there, it didn't really occur to me until I was walking up Elmwood Avenue one day, which is, not a particularly bad street in downtown Buffalo. And I saw this guy across the street, and I saw a look in his eye, and I'm like, I know that look, this guy knows where to get some crack. And I had a couple of drinks, and I just kind of walked up to him and I started talking to him, and, fast forward like a half hour later, he's sitting in the front seat of my car, and I'm driving around the east side of Buffalo, he's running into buildings with $10, and the thing is, whenever I was scoring drugs with these guys, you always have to be very careful. You couldn't give them a whole big wad of money all at once because they just run off with the whole thing.
You'll never see them again.
But if you parcel it out a little bit, and then when the first time they come back, you do a little with them, then they're yours for the night. They're stuck to you like Velcro. So that was kind of the situation with this guy, and I think wasn't Christmas Eve, but it was just like the day before Christmas Eve. So it was a very festive crack smoking experience. What the fuck is going on over there?
The cat just sort of attacked me. I'm not sure why. Yeah. Go on.
So anyway, I spent the better part of an evening, with this guy driving him around the east side of Buffalo, where I really didn't know where I was going, and it was extremely dangerous. But I'd come from the Bronx, so I figured nothing in Buffalo could possibly be any worse than anything that happened there. But as it turned out, in Buffalo, I was involved in a bank robbery, and somebody chased me through the snow to try and steal my mountain bike. I had more crimes perpetrated on me in Buffalo than I did in the 2 years in the Bronx. But you get this superhuman feeling when you go to those. When you come from New York, like at college when I went upstate New York, in that small town, you get this superhuman feeling. Or at least I did. Hey, I'm from Long Island. I'm from New York. I can get away with anything. Right. I just should, and I think I've told the story before. I should just note if there are any federal officers listening, I wasn't participating in robbing the bank. I was the victim of a bank robbery. I was working in a bank at the time. Yeah. So,
Buffalo could be rough.
That was the only time that I did crack when I lived for the 6 months I lived up there. I kind of got into running and kind of put down the drugs for a few years after that. But I kept running into that guy all the time, and he would always kind of sidle up to me, be like, "Hey man, you're looking to score." And I'd be like, "No, I'm going to the food co-op right now."
You got those
I'll catch
Andrew
up with
Jacksons.
You later, man.
Give me those George Washingtons, man.
But it was pretty dicey because my girlfriend, who I was living with at the time, she was like, "How do you know that guy?" I'm like, "I don't know. I talked to him on the street one day,
I had incidents like that where they're the guy you don't want your girlfriend to know you're friends with because she knows exactly why you would be friends with them.
Right.
I don't know that guy. It's like, "Hey man, what happened? Remember we were going to start that company together?" And you're like, "No, that wasn't me. I'm so sorry." Yeah. Must be thinking of someone else.
So what comes next, Nat?
What comes next?
You know what comes next?
What?
What comes next, Nat?
Recovery in the news. No.
Okay, sure. I'll have to splice the music in because I can't do it here.
Damn. Yeah, we've got some news stories. We were going to talk life. I mean, we did enough life update talking. This is what
not a hell of a lot happened this week.
Yeah. It was.
Wait a minute.
It was one of those.
You did something, didn't you?
What did I do? Oh yeah, we had a really interesting. Actually, as you guys I may have spoken about on the show, my wife had an annual holiday party. Cat, what is the cat attacking me for? Stop it. He's just stalking me and then attacks.
That's what they do.
Yeah, but I've never seen this side of him. I don't know what. Maybe he's on drugs. So stop it, Eros. Just stay over there. So on Friday, it was Saturday, my wife had there's a rotating holiday party for her high school buddies. And so she was telling me this year, oh, they're coming to our house this time. I said, oh, great. Can you do me a favor and get me a hotel? I was just doing shtick. I'm like, get me and the boys a hotel for the night. I don't want to be there for that nonsense, And so she did it. And she got us a hotel room just at a local hotel. It's like where guys that get thrown out of their house, will stay. It's not like a motel, but there was an indoor pool. It was nice enough. It was fun. Me and the boys went there. We set up the Xbox and in the hotel room and hung out, ordered room service, and it was a good time. The next morning I had to get them ready for church from the hotel, go straight to church and then do the pageant practice and then boom. So it was a lot of fun. And Christine had a nice time with her pals. One of them ended up sleeping over.
I was going to say, when you got back to the house, was it totally trashed and women splayed out across all the couches?
What's funny is most of them are sober, not just don't drink, they are actively sober.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's only one or two, she and one of her other friends are still drinking, but everybody else we used to party with got clean. Isn't that funny? So that's awesome. All the dishes were done. The place was immaculate.
Sober parties,
basically
people clean your house and do the dishes. That's great.
Okay. So that was that, and I'm getting a call from work.
Oh, do you need to take it? Put it on air.
So, crap. All right. So we've got a big day today, and we're gonna have to stop it. This cat. Stop. All right. Get out of here.
Fighting you.
Stop it. He's got a very large penis. He's a boy. He's a boy with a very...
You didn't cut it off? Don't you... What are you doing? Why am I staring at your phone, the back end of your phone? All right, you know what? I'll just get started.
Yeah, get started.
So it's been quite a week for recovery-related news and drug policy news, at least if you read the New York Times. On December 12th, which I guess was yesterday, so this is hot off the presses, the entire editorial board of the New York Times wrote an opinion piece called "What Comes Next for the War on Drugs?" Question mark. The beginning.
Question mark.
The beginning of the end. And what our friends at the New York Times editorial board relay is that there are 3 bills currently making their way through Congress that could save lives and money and help to finally dismantle the nation's failed war on drugs. The 3 are the Medicaid Reentry Act and the MAT Mainstreaming Addiction Treatment Act and the Equal Act, eliminating a quantifiably unjust application of the law Act. Well, that sounds like it was written, that title was written in a committee somewhere. They all have bipartisan support and could be passed by the lame duck session of Congress. So what are they? Well, the MAT Act is pretty interesting because it would eliminate the special DEA waiver that doctors have to apply for in order to prescribe buprenorphine. So community health aides could then give out the medication as long as it's prescribed by a doctor through telemedicine, right? And it would give the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration responsibility to start a national campaign to educate healthcare practitioners about medications for opioid use disorder. This is huge, right? I mean, because the big issue with medically assisted treatment, or one of the big issues, is just lack of availability. I'm sorry, watch the fucking cat eat your arm, eat your arm in front of me here. Why is the cat eating you?
Stop. Yo, he really wants to kill me.
That's so bizarre.
Get out of here. What are you doing? I'm so sorry. I completely upset the decorum of the show with that cat.
So there was a 2019 report from the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine that found that fewer than 20% of people who could benefit from having access to these medications actually do have access to them.
This is a major problem. And I went through this when I was trying to get buprenorphine or Suboxone, which was the brand name. And they put so many hurdles in front of you, in front of the doctor. When I used to finally get to a doctor who I could get Suboxone from, he was putting lots of roadblocks. They treated me like a criminal for even looking for it. So any way that they can take some of those hurdles down for people. Just make it easier to get. Yes, people will abuse it. People abuse these things. It's just part of life. You can't legislate based on a few people's abuse, Well, so this is really.
I mean, it's
or is that
insane.
how it works?
Well, I mean, it's sometimes. I mean, it's insane to me though that people that the government had no problem with doctors prescribing Oxycontin for people with minor back pain for a decade without overly legislating in that area. But when it comes to treatment medications, all of a sudden the concern for abuse is something that they need to worry about. I mean, there is a stigma, right? There's a lack of understanding how medications for opioid disorders work. But I think also, you have to sort of call out the elephant in the room, and that one of the largest organizations in the recovery space, like NA and AA, have always been sort of antagonistic towards medically assisted recovery, and
never sat right.
They tend to have the ear of a lot of the legislatures because they're the biggest game in town, right? So I mean, you wonder how much pressure is coming from the traditional recovery community, flowing into Washington, and saying, this isn't real recovery. If you're on medication, you're not really sober. All of which I think is total horseshit. But but apparently,
I hope that's lessening. I hope there's less of that. It seems that way, because the harm reduction voices are getting louder, like the Tracy Heltons of the world, and Maya Zalowitz. They're starting to have a louder voice. Celebrities are starting to sort of speak out about some of that stuff. And I think maybe that's what's happening is the conversation has shifted. And,
let's hope
being
so.
Reflected. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think certainly giving, getting rid of the dropping the DEA waiver and will allow and trying to educate these prescribers that this is a legitimate medication that you should be prescribing. I mean, it's about getting the information out to the people that need to hear it. The doctors need to be educated on this stuff. And I think that was a major roadblock for me, just speaking from my own experience, was at first regular doctors just had no idea what to do with me. When I first went to my general practitioner to be like, I have a problem with opiates, I said at the time. Nobody wanted to say heroin back then. It was this big dirty word. And now it's it's just everywhere. Nobody cares as far as being embarrassed anymore. Actually, that's not true sometimes, but it's much less than it was. I didn't want to say the word heroin, but when I went to my doctor, my general practitioner with it, he's just go to the hospital, and I did, just like a regular hospital. Really?
And, and they put me in the detox wing. And then, but from there, they had no real plan, for me. They were like, oh, you should probably go to, one of these rehabs. I was like, yeah, right. I'm not doing that. So the more they're educated, the better, to help people.
I mean, rehabs have such a horrendous success rate. Should that really be the first line treatment? Maybe some combination of, therapy, mental health discussion after a detox and getting on some of this medication right away is a more expedient and more. I mean, as long as we live in a country that has for-profit healthcare, I guess you're going to have people pushing people into places where money can be made as opposed to what's best for the patient, though, right? Yeah,
but it's also a safe environment. Some of these people, when you get right out of detox, it's also one of the most dangerous times.
Yes,
for someone. So I'm a believer in keeping someone sort of safe for 30 to 60 days for a bit while they kind of get it out of their system. They get intervention from therapists, and hopefully they can get some of that life-saving medication. A rehab that isn't like Hazleton, something where that's medicine focused. Maybe it could be an extension of the hospital program. You go to the detox and then you're in another observed setting just for safety. And then maybe they do that in certain places, but I don't know, just cutting someone loose after detoxing. I mean, that's deadly most of the time.
I don't think the suggestion, I wasn't suggesting that they just be cut loose, but
what do we do with them?
Maybe you need to change the current treatment trajectory.
At least the options, you could say, here's a harm reduction option you could use, where and give someone wants a religious program or something. There's plenty of those they could refer them to. But the hospitals and doctors have to know what they're doing. You know, it seems like such a basic thing, but
Well, and speaking of healthcare costs, that brings us to the second bill that's pending in front of Congress right now, which is the Medicaid Reentry Act. And this one's really interesting because I never really considered sort of this end of it, but the Medicaid Reentry Act would allow states to reactivate Medicaid for inmates up to 1 month before their scheduled release from prison. So those benefits normally are suspended, or in some states, the redder ones, perhaps terminated during incarceration because current law prohibits jail and prison inmates from receiving federal health insurance. Reinstating this medication or Medicaid after incarceration takes time and resources that people who've just been released from jail don't necessarily have. And the resulting disruptions in medical care are dire. America's prison population suffers disproportionately from a range of ailments, including opioid use disorder. And so people who are released from prison are 50 to 150 times as likely to die from an OD in the first 2 weeks after they're released from prison. So if you close the post-incarceration treatment gap, people who have opiate disorders, when they get out of prison, at least they have the availability of treatment for them that they would not have had their Medicaid not been reinstated.
Yeah, there's a huge gap in support, and I learned a little bit about that because I was never in long-term, incarceration, so I can't really speak from experience. But I've seen a few of these documentaries. I think one we did a show on about the 3 people they followed.
Yes,
and also like reading Joseph Naus's books and just sort of to see how difficult it is especially if you're a felon or you've been in prison for any length of time. And usually, if they're doing really good with the prison programs and they're sober and, they're doing great, that period of time, just getting resettled into the world is so difficult and it's such an uphill battle.
Right.
We could really, if you want to talk in terms of money, we would save money by making sure we're not getting the recidivism rate up so high, meaning people going back into prison. Maybe they could look at it from a monetary perspective. Yes, it costs money to have these support programs, but it also will save you in prison space, hopefully. And then the people can really help contribute back to society more easily. So that's a great, and that's one of those little things I never thought of.
Right.
Until I heard that story. Like, sure, if they're getting, Medicaid or they need it, they should have it ready for them when they're finally free, so they're not, going without treatment.
I mean, I think in some sense, it would be folly to assume that people are, going to take advantage of that kind of thing, when they get out of prison. Maybe we're talking about a small subset of people who are released, but they actually did a study in Rhode Island, where they did reinstate the Medicaid a month prior to release, and it reduced post-incarceration overdose fatalities by 60% because these patients could access methadone and buprenorphine during incarceration and immediately after release without any disruption. So instead of sending people off with like a pamphlet, you connect them with treatment while they're inside, and then they can continue it when they're outside, right?
Now, I have a question about incarceration. So I know that when you get out of prison, do you always have a parole officer or parole supervision for a time?
Only if you're out on probation or parole.
So because there's that system is out there, and for those people who have parole or probation situations where they could be, that because I was on probation, so I know that it's a regular thing. They are trying to help most of the time, and they my probation officer helped me, find different he was really great though, but so they're in a position to do that. But I would worry also about the people who are not on probation or parole, like who is supporting them? And if the answer is nobody, maybe that should be looked at. There should be some kind of at least optional. And I know there's a lot of like volunteer organizations who step in, but there should really be some kind of like, think of Mind the Gap. When you're in England, there's a gap between the subway or the tube and the platform. We need some kind of help over the gap back into society.
We have those gaps in New York too,
But we don't say mind the gap, which is very British. Yo, asshole, look out for the hole.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, there's a limited taxpayer resources, so the idea of getting people to spend them on something like released prisoners and keeping them from relapsing, difficult to do, unless you couch that in terms of it's going to save society money and resources over the long haul, right?
Yeah, and if you can just get people to be patient and smart enough to understand the concept of that, instead of prisoners, criminal, bad, regular people, good. Once you can get away from that and look at people more holistically, it's like these are just human beings and they have potential and they have rights.
Yeah, that might be asking a bit too much. We can't even. I mean, this isn't the time or the place to get into how screwed up all levels of government are and why we can't ever seem to get anything done in this country. But it's a real hard sell when you have an issue like this, right? Yeah. Everybody wants potholes filled. That we can kind of come up with the wherewithal to do that. Although on Long Island, that always seems to be a challenge every year. But when it comes to something like this, it's, So speaking of keeping people out of prison, because that would be the best thing to do, right? Would be to keep people out of prison in the first place. Sure. The final bill pending before Congress is the Equal Act, which I'm not going to read what that stands for again because it was ridiculous. So basically, it would eliminate the federal sentencing disparity between drug offenses involving crack cocaine and powder cocaine.
Oh, I remember, and that's just it's just been submitted, or has it passed?
So it's an interesting history, right? So in 1986, when crack was new and destroying cities and lives across America, including mine, basically it said that 50 grams of crack, this law they passed, was the equivalent of 5,000 grams of powder cocaine, and possession of either would get you a minimum mandatory of 10 years. Right.
I remember reading about that. Yeah.
And it was based on this idea, which has since been disproven, that crack is far more addictive than powder cocaine. And that ended up with a lot of people doing a lot of time. And of course, far more people going to prison for crack were people of color, because crack was smoked more in those communities because it was cheaper. You could buy a hit of crack in a vial for a couple of bucks, which is also great for a college student like myself that delivered pizza and didn't have a lot of money, because who could afford $25 for a quarter gram, or $100 a gram, when I could, go up the corner and see Ralphie and get a bottle for $5,
Yeah. Well, those laws were targeted against inner city, poor people, basically, because they were the ones, that were initially using it because it was so much cheaper. So they said, well, we know how to target a community. We'll find the thing that they're doing specifically and then make these draconian, sentencing laws. And it's just crazy, because if any one of them has done crack and cocaine at different times, they would know that. I always got into more trouble with the powder than I did with the rock.
Yeah, because you can it
lasts forever.
It does. You can go for days, but I guess you can go for days on crack too. Although I was never really more than
not as easy
24-hour guy. Yeah. Plus, it's with coke, you can do a couple lines and then go to a club, and you can do stuff and go to the bathroom. With crack, it's sort of it's a real solitary endeavor.
It makes you real paranoid pretty quick.
A couple of friends just are not leaving your apartment except to go buy more crack. You're not going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I did go to the Limelight during the 80s, and I remember being a couple of times, and I remember being surprised at the amount of crack smoking that was going on in the bathroom in there. And I was like, damn, but those people probably never left the bathroom.
Well, that was me. I would, if I went into the bathroom with that stuff, I wasn't coming out until I was done and needed more.
Right. Or it's just out of money or out of crack. That's right. So in 2010, they reduced the crack to powder ratio from 101 to 18 to 1. So I guess that sounds like some kind of compromise deal that went through Congress. But the Equal Act would eliminate it altogether. And the positive result of that would be about almost 8,000 people who are serving really long sentences for crack could be released on an average of 6 years earlier. So that's in the aggregate. New York Times did the math and said that's 46,500 fewer years in prison, which I guess saves the federal government plenty of money that they can then funnel to their congressional districts.
Or just supporting marijuana, tax legislation or something.
Right. I mean, but you know what? I was very encouraged to see this discussion in the New York Times, in the editorial section, basically saying that what everybody's kind of known from everybody from the DEA on to the street addict is that the war on drugs has been a failure.
Right.
Overdose deaths are as high as they've ever been. And the number of people in prison for drug offenses remains stubbornly and egregiously high. So, this is a good place to start. I think what you need to do, my personal opinion is you take 90% of the money away from enforcement and you put it into, education and try and fix the problem that was created by the pharmaceutical companies and the easy access to opioids that has characterized the last 15, 20 years.
There's a lot of damage to repair.
But just putting people in jail is it doesn't really solve the problem in any systemic way. It may solve your individual problem, because I've heard
people
from
get
some
clean
people
in prison
who are like, if it wasn't for prison, I'd still be out there doing drugs.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you hear that every once in a while. Someone who says prison completely. There's a few books I've read about people's journey through prison and getting clean in prison, and then it's interesting. Everybody kind of has a different experience with that, that journey. But I think for the most part, it's not positive.
Yeah. Oh.
Are you picking the cat up in the back?
Yeah.
So,
do you feed that animal, or
he never does this? Actually, you know what? It's something. There's a new something on the dining room table, and it's me. And there's this big blue phallus that I'm speaking into, and maybe he's bugged out by it, and he's just sort of giving me the 1,000-yard stare.
All right, so we have
drug laws.
Yeah, we have another article.
Okay,
but do you think we might need to take a short break and be back after these words?
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these words.
All right. And we're back. Where did the cat? Did you drown the cat in the back?
Yeah, the cat has left the building. So the cat is.
You put it outside.
He's lurking, but I think he's given up on trying to murder me. For now. Until he's sucking my soul while I'm sleeping. Did you ever hear that thing where they
steal your breath?
Right. Where did that come from?
I don't know. It's weird.
Cats are evil, to be fair.
I love cats. I had cats my whole adult life until recently. Now I have dogs.
I'm attracted to the dark side, so that's why I like them. I was just going to tell you something, and I don't remember. Welcome back. We're doing a very special edition of Nat and Mike in the morning, and welcome. We've got another article for you.
This next thing is also from the New York Times. This is from December 11th, which is the day before the editorial article that we just covered. And it's a guest essay by our good friend Maya Zalovitz, who most famously is known for doing cocaine with Jerry Garcia when she was 7 years old. She probably hates to be identified by that. She's actually she's a contributing opinion writer to the New York Times. She's the author of a number of books, and her most recent book is Undoing Drugs: How Harm Reduction is Changing the Future of Addiction. She's a
really great book
in this space, and a person in recovery herself. Really great author. Highly recommend all her books. But her guest essay is called "It's Not Just About Pot. Our Entire Drug Policy Needs an Overhaul." And I would agree. Mm-hmm. Do you agree? Our entire drug policy needs an overhaul.
The whole thing needs to be redone.
A continuation on our theme, the failure of American drug law, particularly marijuana policy, has long been obvious, she states. So as we know, and I think as we've discussed on the show before, this past October, President Biden ordered the Department of Health and Human Services to review the scheduling status of cannabis. Cannabis, as you know, is currently considered a Schedule 1 drug, which is kind of crazy because it says that there is no medical use whatsoever. It severely limits the amount of research you can do. It bans the possession and sale of certain drugs. And marijuana is on that schedule along with its buddies heroin, LSD, and most other psychedelics, all of which have wildly, of course, different risks and each with significant medical benefits.
The rat pack of narcotics.
Yes. So she goes into a bit of the Controlled Substance Act history and talks about how it grew out of legislation driven by racist anti-immigration propaganda.
Riveting. I can't believe this hasn't been read more. She takes us on a journey.
She takes us on a journey. There are 5 schedules, right? And how a drug ends up on a certain schedule is more a matter of social engineering, attempted social engineering and politics than it is about any real
there's so much social baggage.
Yeah.
So much social baggage that went along with creating those. We have to rethink the whole thing. It definitely makes sense.
And she points out rather astutely that some medically permissible drugs are more dangerous and addictive than other illegal substances, and that recreationally legal drugs like alcohol and tobacco, which are more dangerous than many of the drugs on there, are not scheduled at all. So they're not even on the list. So the act was passed in 1970 when Richard Nixon was president.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol and tobacco weren't seen as drugs at all, even though alcohol takes claims as many lives every year as opioids does.
Yeah.
So if you consider the differences among marijuana, LSD, and heroin, which are all Schedule 1, the research suggests that about a quarter of the people that start using heroin become addicted. I would have thought it was more, but a quarter, okay. But marijuana addiction rates are much lower. They're under 10%, and LSD addiction is rare, affecting at most a fraction of 1% of users. Can you imagine becoming addicted to LSD? Like, just wanting
I've heard of people getting, it's like, there's a psychological addiction, I think, where you just get addicted to doing that, maybe. But if you were really addicted, like, that would suck.
I mean, you just can't live in reality if you're addicted to LSD, because there is no, like, the fabric of your reality is constantly changing, and I don't know how you could live like that, but I guess I knew some guys back in the Grateful Dead days that would trip like every day for the duration of a Grateful Dead tour. But at some point you have to stop because, you have to wipe your ass and stuff. Like, it's just very hard to like engage in any sort of normal human behavior if you're a child of the universe all the time.
Yeah, it gets exhausting.
Yeah.
Christmas. I have to. Can we pause 1 second?
Yes.
I have to take this. Right. It's, how there's always. Sorry about that. There's always one client where if they call once and you send it to voicemail because you're doing something else, you can get away with it. Maybe they'll email you, maybe whatever. They'll leave a message. When they call back again after you send them to voicemail, that's a must pick up. And it wasn't even, of course, it wasn't an emergency.
No,
they just wanted attention.
People need their attention.
Very sorry about that. So moving back to being a star child of the universe all the time. I did acid so much that I began to get used to it when I was in high school.
You can build up a tolerance to it. I took it a few days in a row on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, it was weird. I used to think of it as, I remember thinking this as a kid in high school, like I would do it and then it would start to like percolate. You'd start to see the colors and you would get that. You would feel like the shift had happened, the moment where you're like, okay, I'm there, you know? And I did it a couple of times and I go, like, this isn't like as exciting as it used to be. And it's just like a familiar place. And I remember thinking, I was out of my brain, of course, but I remember thinking like, this is it, like, I don't know. Like I started getting used to the feeling. It's like when you first go to a new place, it's like exciting. And then if you do it too much, I was kind of like, oh, it's just like visiting an old neighborhood or something. It's just really weird thought.
The neighborhood is at the outer edges of the cosmos.
Yeah. So building up a tolerance, and you hear stories about the guy eating 50 hits of acid, and how is that possible? I mean, if I took 2, I was out of my mind. Yeah, so it must be a tolerance thing.
It depends on the acid too, right?
Yeah, true.
But even still, I mean, you can't OD on LSD. Or marijuana, for that matter. And
you can't OD on LSD. What about all those stories about the megadose and?
Well, you can drive yourself nutso, but you can't kill yourself with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just make you want to kill yourself.
Sort of like weed in that respect, But I mean, I guess the thing that she's calling attention to is the fact that LSD, marijuana, and heroin. Heroin addiction being the deadliest condition in psychiatry, as it's called, are on the same schedule, and they shouldn't be. Meanwhile, of course, cigarettes hook 2/3 of the people that try them and kill about half of all users, and alcohol can cause overdose deaths, and that escapes any sort of regulation under the Controlled Substances Act. So really no science to the Controlled Substances Act. It was just an attempt to justify existing harsh drug laws. Like in the late 60s, once they realized that LSD had gotten out into the general public and people were really enjoying it, and it was causing people to like try and do weird shit like levitate the Pentagon, and it started getting in the way of the war in Vietnam. It was made illegal in the late 60s, but up until that point, it was legal. So at the time that the Grateful Dead were having all those big acid tests, and everybody in San Francisco was like painting their faces day glow and everything, LSD was still legal in this country. But
yeah, that's crazy.
And then of course you have
cool.
the idea, the laws that were passed in the earlier part of the century, like blacks who used cocaine and Chinese guys that used opium. It was a very racist stereotype,
right.
And that was the 1914 Harrison Narcotics Act, which prohibited non-medical use of cocaine and opium. And the 1937 law that banned marijuana was fueled by racism against Mexicans and racist fears about black jazzmen spreading both addiction and seductive music. Seductive jazz music.
That was my biggest fear,
Yeah.
All of that seductive jazz music coming out of these little neighborhoods. Yeah, that's and for us to completely ignore the history of this is just absurd. It's like when they have these interviews with legislators who are, against that sort of thing, they just sound stupid, like it's like they're ignoring such obvious, misconduct, and it's just, how do we does Maya offer a solution? How do we shake the system? Or is she just saying this is a problem and holding up her hand?
In some sense, she's saying that the solution, at least with respect to marijuana, has been sort of taken away from the feds and being acted upon by the states who have almost collectively realized that the draconian scheduling of marijuana as a Schedule I drug is ridiculous, right? So cannabis is already legal, or it's set to become legal for recreational use in 21 states. 37 of them permit medical use. And perhaps most importantly, and the biggest push as to why cannabis is becoming more popular and these laws are falling in different states, is that the cannabis industry projects $33 billion in sales for 2022. So,
Wow.
So there's a lot of money involved in the marijuana industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Colorado, you hear about their surpluses now from, when that was in the newspaper the first year or something that they were able to tax cannabis.
Yeah. And then they had a surplus of weed, and they weren't making as much tax money off it because they continued to allow the illicit market to exist alongside the state market. So the state drug dealers didn't have as good prices or as good product, so they were losing out to the pirates, funny. Right? But she says that there's a risk in rescheduling marijuana, because if you reschedule it, you run the risk of upending state regulations by imposing prescription requirements, which would essentially give the whole market to big pharmaceutical companies, which is the only industry with the capacity to make and sell FDA regulated medicine.
Oh yeah. Can you imagine if Purdue came out with an extended release THC pill that just like blew your fucking mind? You could inject it. You could inject. Leave it to pharmaceuticals to weaponize marijuana.
Right. I mean, but think about there's a lot of money there, and where there's money,
sure,
big players are going to, like Budweiser and InBev and all those other companies, are going to come sniffing around.
Yeah, we're going to dangle the right carrot for those people.
So some in the cannabis industry have proposed creating something called Schedule 6 for marijuana. It would leave
Schedule 420, man.
Reading the Roman numeral, I'm trying to what is that, 5 or 6? It would leave the question of regulation or prohibition in the hands of each state. So either descheduling or creating a schedule that avoids prescription requirements might resolve the issue of marijuana regulation. But changing the marijuana law is not enough. Psychedelics are already presenting similar regulatory issues. He says some states have already legalized them. I think Oregon being one, and I think wasn't it a prop on California's ballot this past time around?
Not sure. I don't know if California. It seems like they're all falling like dominoes, though.
Yeah.
All of the states and.
So her solution is to create a new strict pathway for approval for safer substances that have both recreational and medical uses, like psychedelics, or, for example, some new drug with the benefits of alcohol but less harm. And without such a path, cartels will continue to be the main innovators, introducing new and often deadly products to millions without testing or quality control. So, and she also argues that you should have limits on the marketing and advertising of substances like alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, and prescription drugs, because as the opioid crisis demonstrated, permitting the marketing of addictive substances can be dangerous, whether aimed at doctors or consumers, and lax rules on commercialization are a disaster. And I think that really played out in the opioid crisis, right? Because the government seemed to be completely unable to regulate the pharmaceutical companies as they were telling lies about the addictive nature of the product that they were pushing. Creating pathways for greater profits from these companies with very little other than a slap on the wrist on the back end when it became evident that they were the ones causing all the problems, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways,
it's hard. It's
we
like
need new ideas, she says, but she doesn't have all of them, right?
Well, this always brings up the old federalism debate, like states' rights and federal rights, and who wins out. A lot of the on the right, they're the federalists. They think states should have control of the laws, or when it's convenient. I've noticed people would say, "Let the states decide."
Yeah.
But anytime you've got this, the federal government does one thing, which is what's going on right now. I think it's federally. It's still illegal. And then in like a state like Colorado, it's like state legal, but the federal, it's screwing everything up. They have to get on the same page, I think. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like the federalism, the states' rights? And
I think it's a little weird because you're really talking about two separate things. You're talking about like marijuana and psychedelic as medical agents, right? And historically, the federal government has always been the one to legislate in the area of medicines. That's why you have an FDA, so that snake oil salesmen in Colorado can't peddle something that can kill you and have a different law about it than a state like North Carolina. But on the other hand, you're also talking about these things being used recreationally, which is different from the medical use. So, should recreational use be decided by the states because it's a lifestyle, social choice, and the medical stuff be regulated by the federal government because it's medicine? I don't know if you can even have that dual regulation path, but maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah. What do you guys think out there? Tell us your thoughts on this topic. Mike R. at middleagesrecovery.com. I'd be interested to hear what the Monksters have to say.
Yeah, send me some
about
emails,
this.
Please. I don't
this is not an easy answer. It's something that there's still a lot to work out.
I don't think we're going to solve it, but
we are not going to solve it.
We're not activists. We're podcast hosts.
We are podcast hosts. With that, I think I need to wrap up.
Yeah, we're done.
My phone is blowing up. The work train is starting to pile up.
Yep.
We've got people waiting at the station. They're like knocking on the door. I'm saying 1 minute, 1 minute. But
I have 20 emails. I just looked at my phone.
I know. It's so nerve-wracking. So that about does it for today. I know I had a great time. Did you?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com once we fix it. Podbean, Apple Podcast, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter. So tweet us at what you twit. Support your favorite show. Guys, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We will read it.
Yes.
We're also on Spotify. They have a review system, I think Stitcher as well. Reach out. Join us on the Facebook group. It's a private support recovery group, Recovery in the Middle Ages. For a higher level of care and more one-on-one with the Monksters and the Inner Sanctum, go to patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages and sign up.
Please note we don't provide care.
No, we don't provide care. This is a peer support network.
That's right.
Peer support.
There we go.
If you love the show and you want to help us and others, share it with a friend and help grow the RMA movement. And as we say, non proficiat perfectum.
That's progress, not perfection.
See you next time.
Stay fresh, cheese bags, and hang in there. It's the holiday season, and you're going to be all right.
Holiday show coming soon.